Hello, everybody. Thank you for the great turnout. So my name is Patrice, VP of Product. What we are going to do is basically showcase the Mac Mini M4, and this is the bundle that we are going to look at. We have the Mac Mini M4 here with a HP gaming station with a GPU server, which is going to run the AI tagging for the demo today. And you probably have seen the ad with the hand holding the Mac Mini in the Apple website, and you don't truly appreciate how small the system is until you actually hold it in your hand yourself. This system is ridiculously small for the amount of power that we are going to look at. And this gives us the idea of pretty much having a very nice bundle where the hardware does not need to be inside a rack mounted server room that will take a lot of money to prep and set up. And this is really something that excites us because it actually brings us back to the core of why we founded Axel. Back in 2012, when we started Axel, the MAM industry was really tailored for big broadcast stations or maybe very big cinema studios, and it costed a lot of money. And we came in with the idea of managing media is essential for everybody, and it should not be that expensive for smaller teams that decide to produce videos. And we are talking about sports teams, we are talking about corporations that are producing their own videos, and this is growing exponentially, especially with the social media world that we live in, where a lot comes out as Reels or TikTok, all these kind of things. And all this media needs to be searchable. And as an example, I will take my phone here. I do not spend my time scrolling down to find the picture or video I need. I will just search. My favorite search is the location, but a lot of people will search also on face. And now with the all these AI engines capabilities that will also live on your cell phone, you can also search on scene understanding and pets and so on. And this level of search that people get accustomed to on their touchscreen devices are to be available to media teams. And that's really what we are trying to get back into. So, Sam, over back to you.
As some of you may know, we're axle.ai, and our mission is to make media smarter. As Patrice points out, we've actually been around over a decade, although we kind of pivoted to the AI stuff in 2018. So for the last 6 years, we've been building our AI capabilities so that we can do a combination of MAM style media search and AI powered tagging, all on a fairly lightweight platform. What's really exciting about the new Mac Minis is that they reduce the amount of hardware that's needed to do this kind of work pretty dramatically. And our thesis is that over the next few years, all video is going to be searchable. We're probably a year into this, and relatively few teams have actually accomplished this today. If you go to most post-production houses, corporate video teams, uh, universities, churches, they'll have to kind of muddle their way through the footage that they have. They don't have easy ways to find important content. And the key is that without AI, you really don't have a good solution to this problem. So, you could hire a squad of interns, but effectively nobody has the time or budget to do that. And yet the number of people doing this kind of work, as Patrice pointed out, is growing dramatically. It used to be just a couple of thousand big broadcasters and movie studios around the world would have petabytes of media, for instance, or even high hundreds of thousands. Today, there are many, many thousands of teams who have that scale of content and really have the same problems that my colleagues and I encountered back when we were at Avid doing Interplay and Media Central back in the day. The other big thing is that because of the incredibly intense turnaround times for social media, the need to find the stuff quickly is exaggerated. It used to be that when you completed a project, you essentially were done. It would go to air, it would go wherever it was going, and that was the end of it. Now that's really the beginning of a process of slicing it up, and basically finding sound bites to repurpose for all kinds of social purposes. And you never know what you're going to need until phone call comes in or the email comes in saying, "Hey, we need a clip of the CEO talking about, I don't know, climate change, or we need better footage from our earnings call or from last week's sermon if it's a church." So the ability to quickly find the stuff and turn it around is central to the way most of our customers do their daily work. For a few years, we've been building a suite of modules to do things like speech transcription, finding objects, finding faces, finding logos. In the last year, we've also added scene understanding, which Patrice will be demoing. Essentially, this is a kind of semantic search across everything that is happening in the scene. And it's really very useful, especially coupled with things like the transcription, because of course, if you have footage of a game, the transcription is going to tell you a lot, but also the ability to see what's on camera is also hugely important. And we feel like this is now at a point of really being useful. For a while there, it was like a cool, nice to have feature. Specific customers needed it to search for their logos, for instance, in game footage where they wanted to, find things in the stadium, or they wanted to be able to look for a particular object. For instance, there are people in countries that want to censor any alcohol consumption, so they were looking for wine glasses, things like that. But now it's very general. It's like I need to find the guy standing up with a baseball cap, this kind of thing. Now, the other thing is we have a very open architecture for what we do. Everything we're going to be talking about today is interfaced with REST APIs. And so we have, for instance, modules like axle.ai tags that does the semantic search and the AI powered tagging. That is a separate module from the MAM itself. And we can also plug in third-party applications like legacy storage, legacy MAMs, and we can work with nearly any brand of disk or tape or cloud-based storage. So the openness is really, really important. There are systems in the market that only come with certain storage, only come with certain clouds, and we think that's really limiting for this day and age. Like people want to be able to pick their software platform, do what they want to do, and then make ongoing decisions about which storage to slot into that broader decision. Now, into that, bring the new Mac Mini M4s, just announced really a week ago, and they are super capable. In many ways, they rival what you could do on a Mac Studio, and Patrice will be talking about that. He has both actually there in his lab, and so we'll talk a little bit about how the new Mac Mini M4 compares to the Mac Studios. Also, bear in mind, the one that we got is just the immediately shipping smallest off-the-shelf version. So the M4 Pros are still to come in a week or two. There are faster and bigger configurations of the regular M4 that are also significantly more powerful. But this is going to be the baseline model, and then you can kind of scale it up from there to anticipate what to expect with the bigger configs. There are some very cool benchmarks of the new Mac Minis. These are vis-a-vis older Mac Minis and also the Mac Studio. But bear in mind, this is the Mac Studio Max rather than the Ultra. So if you're comparing it to the Ultra, you probably want to almost double these numbers. And Patrice does have an Ultra there. So again, we'll be talking about it. Probably, and not to steal your thunder, Patrice, the base Mac Mini M4 does not beat the existing Mac Studio Ultras or even the previous generation. It's in the same league, but it's probably going to take the M4 Pro to be closer. And of course, they're going to upgrade the Mac Studios next year as well. And finally, as Patrice was just showing, we have this bundle that we do because most of the best AI today still runs on NVIDIA GPUs. And we found a very affordable gaming machine, the HP Victus, which, like the Mac Mini, is sort of in the $1,000 to $1,500 range. It's a lot bulkier, so you don't have like the completely cute packaging. But what you get is extremely powerful CPU and codec handling on the Mac Mini, and then a very optimized GPU performance, as well as additional CPU and RAM on the Victus. So to give you an idea, though, this combination compares very well with big rack-mounted servers that you would buy and even could buy today. We are still recommending, for instance, Supermicro servers for both the MAM portion and the tags portion. But when you configure it that way, you end up spending something on the order of $15,000 to $20,000 for the two machines. Here, you're talking about spending about $3,000 for the two machines. So it's a dramatic drop in cost for very comparable performance. And of course, the rack mount servers continue to make strides. The latest Intel server CPUs have 64 cores. The latest server GPUs are very powerful as well. So it's not like you don't get anything from going from the $3,000 to the 15 or 20, but you don't get a multiple. You probably get like maybe twice the performance, but you're not going to get 5x or anything like that. So in terms of bang for the buck, this is by far the best solution we can recommend today. And again, Patrice will be walking through some of that. Just a few more slides. This is our team. We have 24 people around the world, bunch of folks with very diverse experiences, all in the media and technology space. But we're super excited about this. And we've grown every year we've been in business almost. The first year of COVID, we actually did not grow. That was a rough year, but we got through it. And every other year before and since, we have grown. And this year is no exception. We're probably growing faster than ever right now. So it's been an exciting time to be working with the team on this, to be working with our customers. We have over 1,000 customers worldwide, including some pretty big names. And happy to talk about those in the Q&A or elsewhere. But it really does range fairly broadly from broadcasters to brands to universities, churches, post-production facilities, you name it. And examples include RTM in Malaysia, who are the national broadcaster there. They have 15 sites of our software that operate in a federated way so that you can search across all of them from the headquarters and basically see all the content, including the AI tagging across the different sites and workflows. And another customer of ours, for instance, is Club Brugge, who are the sort of perennial champions of the Premier League in Belgium. And they use our software for a combination of sub-clipping, tagging, remote uploads, and searching. So it's a very exciting use of the software. So that's pretty much it for me. And with that, I will turn it back over to Patrice, who will kind of show some of the latest cool stuff and maybe with some commentary about performance along the way.
Sounds good. Thank you, Sam. I'm going to take over the screen. So yeah, basically, Sam is right. I had the chance to basically run some benchmark and try to put a little bit through its pace. So I do have a M1 Ultra, and I was curious as to how it will compare. And through the exact same settings, for example, doing a ProRes 4444, I will get how to see, but 2x transcode speed on the Mac Mini versus 4x. So it's about half the speed on the Ultra. And when you get to more complex, to more standard codec, then the doubling the core GPU cores and CPU cores will really show what the Ultra can do compared to the Mac Mini, where I go from 10x the speed roughly on the Mac Mini to transcode these to 29 frame or 27 frame, 27x the speed, not frame per second, but x on the video on the Mac Studio Ultra. Now, a base Apple chip versus a Max or Ultra is really not comparing apple to apples because it's like you stack multiple of these together and you have more throughputs to go through, plus the doubling of the cores and the doubling of the GPUs. That being said, keeping a Mac Studio for editing or other production tasks and using a little cheap box like the Mac Studio as your search engine server can really relieve some of your budget constraints you may have for production. And that
Patrice,
is,
I think you meant the Mac Mini there. All
oh
right.
yes, the Mac Mini. Sorry, thank you. The Mac Mini.
Yeah.
So having a Mac Mini for the as a MAM server will really help you free up. So I have media here. So let's talk about Axle now. What would this Mac Mini do? And here I have a network drive that is connected to both the Mac Mini and my station here for the demo. And I have a specific folder called Axle Webinar where I will have a bunch of media uh, available, including pictures and PDFs and other media type of media. And the idea of the Axle as software would be to go through your folder structure and replicate this structure into its database and make it searchable for you. So let's actually close Finder window and bring it the browser window now. So you will access your Axle server on inside the web browser. It's not in a cloud, it's still your own server. We simply present the interface inside the web browser. And once I log in, and yeah, change my password. Once you log in, you will get back to see the content from the drive. You will see the different videos, the different folders. All of that is presented to me within the web browser. So briefly, how does the interface look of Axel? So on the left side here, you will have the folder structure, which will allow me to just basically expand, collapse, and just jump to the folder that I am interested in to browse. We also have the bin area, which will be, and I'm just going to create a new bin here, and this bin will allow me to, no, do zero click added, but to add content to the bin. And it can also be in and out point from my video. So if I were to look at this video and select the in and out points, I would be able to add it inside the webinar, this media, with the in and out points. And you will see the bin back here, where is the in and out points and the JPEG. And below we have the smart filters. So basically that will be saved searches. So if I perform a search such as clip, for example, and I will find different media, I will be able to save my search and retrieve it inside the filter. So search for clip, save, and now we'll have the search query stored, which means that each time a new clip or new asset will meet the requirement, it will be added to my results. So the left side is really meant to browse quickly to the area you want. At the top, you have the search. And as you saw, I did a quick search, so I can do pulse, for example, and find based on the file name. We can also search on any metadata, any AI metadata as well. And we can filter down by type of assets as well from the search result or while browsing. In the middle, I have the content. And if I open the file, I will have my preview. So if we have a still, I will have a JPEG preview. If I have a video, I will have my video preview with the different content underneath. I can, for example, log markers, holding phone. I can log markers and have them searchable from the timeline. We already seen the searchability. The subclips, sorry, but then you will have other elements powered by AI that we use to improve the searching experience, such as searching on what is being said, searching on who appear in the media. I'll show you other media where we pick up faces, picking up objects, picking up logos, picking up OCR. All of this data is going to become searchable, as well as scene understanding, where basically we store a description of what we see and make it searchable. But lastly, let's just go back a second here, also on the right side, where I will have the file information. And as a user, so for example, I will say project name, let's say November 6th, product name Axel. I will have different type of media available of metadata that will allow me to search. So just a quick recap. Left side, quick browsing. Middle, I will preview the assets. Right side, I will have the metadata and information associated to the asset. Underneath the player, video player, I will have timeline associated data, such as speech, such as objects, and so on. And at the top, I have the search, and I can also bring the advanced search to perform very advanced query by clicking on the lens here, where I can search based on the file name, for example. I will say, find me the file name equals to pulse. I want to have the word pulse inside the file name, and I want the modification date to be less than, for example, today. Uh, and I will want to have, for example, a product name, so custom metadata, contain axle, and I perform this search and I will see the media based on all these criteria that I have just posted. So that's the very quick overview of Axel. And before I jump further with the AI capabilities, just want to make sure that there are no questions.
We've had a couple, but I've been answering them.
Okay,
Feel free, folks, to keep asking them either in the Q&A or in the webinar chat.
great. Thank you, Sam. So this database, again, is running on the Mac Mini M4. And we have the Victus HP doing the AI tagging. Now, why do we include AI tagging? It has been in our experience since we started Axel, and even before Axel, when I was doing photo asset management, that not a lot of people had really the time to tag their media, whether it was with APTC metadata, now XMP, whether it is markers. You will need to either find somebody in your company that would do that very, very specifically. But as a whole, it has been a challenge for people to keep up with the metadata tagging. So there comes AI, where I can tag object, I can tag faces, I can pick up what is being said. And the challenge here is as a user and a content creator, I have all my media in my disk, but the power of AI is in the cloud, which means I need to basically upload all this footage to the cloud and pretty much hope that nobody is going to take it or scrape my data to train their models. And based on what we have seen in the news recently, looks like it has been the case. So our customers, despite us starting AI with some AI tagging very early on, in fact, we did that before it was the buzzword of the year. Um, but because it was processed in a cloud, our customers were not really interested because they did not want to pay for the cost of uploading everything and processing by the hour, and they did not want to lose to basically have the chance of their media being picked up and used for training. So we realized that quickly and we started to basically have our own. And we started with face recognition, we started with speech, and all of that can run on premise, meaning that I have now this tower. So as a user, I do not need to submit my media to the cloud. And we have added more and more capabilities. And now we are all heard about large language models and how ChatGPT is going to take over the world. So we are not using ChatGPT, but the concept is very similar. When you log into ChatGPT, you query a question and you get a very sensible answer. And that's what we are trying to do, and that is the scene understanding. So what I'm going to do for a second is open a new tab and jump into the web interface of our AI machine learning toolbox, where you will see the media that has been analyzed. And I just want to take a small break and show you how I would train faces. When you receive the system, there will be no face. You will train on the faces you want. We do have some starting kits that can help you. We have, for example, this celebrity data set here, a very good data set of roughly 1,000 celebrities that you can train. But typically, the system has been meant for people. Corporation videos, I need to train on the board, the CEO or other officers of my corporation. Sports teams, I need to train on my players. I need to train on managers and owners of the team, etc. So that's what we have been having. And it's very easy to basically create an M and upload photos that will be used for training. And what we do here is basically give some reference point that will help us name a person when we pick up a face. And we are also coming with our own custom model that you can train as well. That is coming up, and that is still fitting in the capabilities of the gaming station, which is very exciting for us. We worked very hard to keep down the GPU RAM requirement for loading all the models. So that's the training of the face. And let me just jump here on this footage here and see what we talk when we mention the scene understanding. And the scene understanding is basically combing through your video and picking up the description. And that is done automatically. You don't need somebody to do that. Now, we could have stopped there and store the description and hope that people will be able to find it. Right? I need to find a car. Well, easy enough. I will have the word keyword car. But if I were to search on vehicle, well, the keyword vehicle is not there. So it will not be as smart as what we want it to be. We still need the keywords, such as face recognition, object, logos, but we need to understand what is happening. We all have somebody in a company that we know where everything is. I don't know how their brain works, but they will have a file cabinet in their brain that we know where the file resides. And if I were to turn around and say, Sam, where do we have footage of winter? He will think of where there is snow, where there is somebody skiing or anything, or a mountain. He would think of this kind of thing. But if the word winter does not exist in a database, I will not be able to find it. And that's where the contextual search will come here, because we are going to use large language model and vector database, which I'm happy to give an expose maybe as another webinar, not today, but broadly speaking, a vector database is, think of it as a room, my office, and different location of my office will have different reference points, such as my right side corner will have vehicles and my left side corner will have animals. And based on that, I will land into a point in my room close or not to what I'm looking for and based on the dimensions, which means that if I were to go back to my axle system and I search, for example, for car, actually let's do winter for the go back to my example of the winter. Even though the word winter appears nowhere in my metadata, panel, or transcription, because I see a close-up of a mountain with snow, or I see three people sitting in the snow with a cup of coffees, I would be able to jump to the frame that I see, and that's based solely on the description. So now we start to have an understanding of what is in your media, available also on pictures, and I can then go crazy in my search. Remember how I mentioned you can query ChatGPT and it will give you sensible answer? Well, what if I wanted to find, for example, a woman driving a car? It will start to find me results very pertinent of there is a woman sitting in the passenger seat of a car, or there is here a woman in a car looking out the window, or and you will have here a frame of image of a woman in a car with a car in the background. So that's actually picking up the background of the interface with a woman sitting at a car here, and I can jump to the frame. And that's really the new search AI search power we have. Now remember, going back to the bundle and the point of this webinar here, that is on less than $3,000 hardware that I was able to do that. That's a key here. Is you do not need to have all the GPUs in the world sitting in the cloud and spin up 10 servers to start to process your media. All of that is sitting in your on my desk here, ready with a small tower gaming station and a Mac Mini M4.
And
And
it's
now,
actually worth making a point here about the cloud, because the other big thing we've been hearing, and especially I would say at NAB and IBC this year, where we met with between the two shows, we had over 700 visitors come to our booths. About 400 in NAB, about 300 at IBC, which is a slightly smaller show, but still, just a lot of visitors, a lot of new interest because of the AI. And I would say the most common thing that we heard was how excited people were that this can run on premise and not require them to upload their media or even proxy versions of their media to the cloud.
Yeah.
because with all the scraping that's going on for generative AI and all the training that's happening, it is becoming very scary out there. And back in the day, and back in the day now, it's just 2 years ago, the main concern that people had with the cloud was that somehow someone might get a hold of their material and distribute it without their permission or not pay royalties. Um, but in the last couple of years, with all the Gen AI, the concerns have evolved now to where it's as much about derivative works and the fact that their material might get used to train some new model that comes out that has a great, you know, say a style of lighting or camera angles or other things that might have been inspired from their content, and you might not even be able to trace that, let alone successfully sue the company that scraped your material. Um, and you would think, well, maybe this is all kind of hypothetical and people are just being paranoid. But just in the last 6 months, both Adobe and Amazon, who are probably the two biggest names in this space, um, had it either come out or put out user agreements that really force the issue. So by default, uh, both Adobe and Amazon Recognition, which is Amazon's AI engine in the cloud, both reserve the right to reuse whatever you put into them for training of future models. And I think for a lot of folks in the content business, that's an unacceptable compromise. Like if that's the case, we're not going to use your service. Now, combined with what Patrice was talking about, which was the cost of running something like Amazon Recognition, which tends to cost about $10 per hour. Uh, it's one thing to use it on a few hours of finished footage, but if you have 10,000 hours of raw footage, we have customers in the reality TV business, we have customers in the YouTuber space, and they have insane amounts of footage, which if you were to push it all through recognition, you kind of instantly run out of money. And then you have the concerns about what might happen to it downstream. So to be able to bring all this, run it on $3,000 worth of hardware, um, you know, get a huge amount of searchability, and also because of our modular approach, the possibility of adding more and better engines in the future is pretty exciting.
Yeah. That is definitely a point, as well as considering that that's our fourth version of face recognition. We are going to have more. We did not solve every single issues that there exist in the world for facial recognition with AI, and re-pushing to the cloud to reprocess. They are not going to give you credits basically because you processed in the past your media. You have to reprocess, you have to repay because you have to lease the GPU in the cloud. So having it in house as well will definitely eliminate this kind of concern that
Yeah,
you may
that's a very
have.
good point. I mean, the technology is advancing so fast. Back in our early days when we were recommending some of these cloud solutions before we decided to develop our own, it was always a very scary thing to recommend that people spend that money on whatever service it was, whether it was Microsoft's or Amazon's or Google's, because you knew it was going to be a lot better in 6 months or 9 months. And then it's like, well, why are you spending the money now? You certainly don't want to go back to your boss in a year and say, oh, it got a lot better. Now let's get some more metadata. It's like you kind of spent your money already and you may have burned some credibility in the process. So this idea that there's unlimited sources of funds to keep reprocessing the same stuff, we don't see it, and neither do our customers. Back to you, Patrice.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. So let's actually talk about what do we do once we find the media. By the way, I was showcasing that we do have photo support. So that's a CR3. So raw photo can also be processed and be analyzed with the AI and find what you need. So right, the object, I will see the cup, the bottle, what you think it's an umbrella, but uh, then you will see the scene understanding where there are many different type of craft supplies. So we see the brushes, the crayons, the color palette here, and so on. So that is the description of what I see in my photo, which will also come in the search. So great. Now I can, great. I have these two machines. Awesome. Less than $3,000. I can have a database of my library and I can have AI go through my process. What do I do with it now? And we are trying to expand a little bit on what you can do. And the most popular extension that we have, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, will be the Premiere panel. So basically, when I launch Adobe Premiere, I can have as an extension axle.ai, which after I log in, I will be able to see the content. Remember the bin I have created with the in and out points? Well, I can just go ahead and import everything. And once it is imported directly straight from the bin into, that's a very large file that I'm trying to import. I should have thought of that anyway. So once I'm importing all this data, I will have the in and out points. Um, well, of course, I cannot run it. Here we go. So let's talk about the search now. I can browse easily my media. Let's take something a little bit smaller to show the import. So I can import directly the media inside, uh, inside the inside my the project. But also you will see that I have also the AI coming up. The AI coming up where I will be able to see who appears in the media as we have seen. I can show you a little bit more. People with a speech, I can search on a speech. I'll be able to search on a media. And so actual faces can filter by person. So say, for example, I just want to see the footage with Charles Leclerc. And here's Charles Leclerc appearing with the in and out points ready to be brought into my Premiere. Or if I wanted to do a contextual search, and I would say, for example, man running in a soccer field, and perform my search, I will start to have the man running in a soccer field come up, which again, when I click, it will jump straight to the frame that I'm looking for. Um, and when ready, I will have the in and out points and ready to import. So here's the scene they're standing. So that is the search, retrieval, and import inside Premiere. And what I will be able to do is, for example, great, you have a Premiere extension. I'm using DaVinci Resolve. What do I do then? We have also a companion app coming where I'll be able to easily browse and bring in the media. For example, I want to bring this Asperg media straight into my project. I can. Let me open the project. And I can bring it straight to the timeline, actually, which is what is neat. So I can perform the search, find my media, bring it to the timeline. And there we go. And I have, apologies for the jittering here. There we go. Timeline coming. And change the frame rate. And I have the timeline after just a drag and drop from my search. Now, why would it be more useful to have Axle than Spotlight, you may ask? Well, because Spotlight and Mac will not always go through the network storage. And currently, there is no real scene understanding search that you can have or any other type of search. So going through the app here, I can easily search or even create my advanced search as a new window and perform the queries that I need. Right. So that's the companion app, which will also work in Final Cut Pro. And speaking of Final Cut and bins, going back to the web browser, when I go to the bin, I will be able to export either Premiere XML or Final Cut Pro XML. So we have all of these capabilities built in that will help you from the search result, what you have found, be more productive quickly, whether it is finding a scene in a frame, finding a person, or searching on what is being said. So it's literally having a control F on my media powered by also AI and large language model, which will allow me to also search based on the context of what is being seen. And with that, we have about 10 minutes left, and I just want to make sure I leave enough room for questions or jumping into any other features that we may need to jump into.
We've been getting a lot of good questions, so I've been typing away like a madman
That's
here,
good.
but so
That's good.
happy to. And some of them are coming in one-on-one, some of them are coming in publicly. So it is really a new era. I think between all the cool new hardware and the amazing developments in open source AI, we're talking about new large language models like every week. We haven't talked a lot about the trends, but last year was the year of text AI. This year is starting to be the year of multimodal AI. And and just like happened with text-based AI last year, a lot of the best work is not proprietary. It's not only available in the cloud. It's available as open source that we as Axle can incorporate into that platform diagram that I showed. So, there is cool stuff happening in a bunch of different areas, and all of that goes to the benefit of our customers because we can train new models, we can plug them in. It's not a closed system, and you don't have to pay by the hour. So, in fact, we have a few customers, pretty ambitious ones, I might add, who are talking about building and training their own models and plugging them into our framework, which is super exciting. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we already have trainable faces. We're adding trainable objects and logos where you can, make sure you can search for your brands and things like that. But just imagine, nature footage. One of our biggest customers actually is the BBC with their watch series of seasonal nature shows, the Richard Attenborough style stuff. And what if they wanted to train on different bird species or train it on different trees? There's just a huge amount that can be done here. And it extends across all the different use cases really that we see. So kind of fasten your seatbelts over the next year. But I think the combination of all the great new hardware and all the great new software, it's going to be unrecognizable a year from now. And we know that our customers, we do have over 1,000 of them worldwide. Those customers are counting on us to kind of be on the leading edge of this and bring them best stuff, or at least point them to the best stuff where it can be plugged in.
Yeah.
Let's see if there are other questions in the last
And
minute or so. Oh, a couple more
what thing is?
questions.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Uh, One question from Mohammed Shafiq. Can I use Axle AI hosted on the Mac with external storage and accessible over SMB with the
Yeah.
companion app? Absolutely. That's exactly what it's for. So essentially the Mac Mini is designed to be your server. Maybe we didn't get into that in enough detail. So think of that Mac Mini as your server. It's a teeny weeny one, but it is a server. And then all of your other Macs and PCs can can log into the browser interface that Patrice was showing uh, at that IP address of that Mac.
I mean,
Furthermore,
just
oh yeah,
I have a QNAP here. That how to say that's a QNAP NAS here
right.
that basically is linked to Victor is linked to that link to the studio that I have here, link to the M1 that I have here, Mac
You
Mac
got
Mini.
you got
So
quite an assortment. I
I
mean,
know
and notice
exactly.
the
That's a
size
collab, huh?
difference, by the way, between the new Mac Mini and the Studio. It's probably a quarter of the size
Oh
in
my
terms
God.
of volume.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
it's pretty wild. Uh, yeah. So just
that's heavy
really,
too.
really nice work by Apple, the combination of the ARM-based chips and everything else that they're doing with the GPUs and also the NPUs. So we're going to hopefully start to be able to move some of the AI processing from the NVIDIA onto the
Yeah.
built-in NPUs on the Mac Mini and Mac Studio over the next year as well. So another question, where are the proxies stored? Good question. So it's up to you. The proxy location is completely up to the individual deployment, and you can either use direct attached storage on the Mac Mini, or you can point it to a network volume dedicated for the proxies. Typically, the size of the proxies is single digit percent, somewhere between 3 and 5% of your high res media. So if you had, say, 100 terabytes of high res media, you might want to buy a 6 or 8 terabyte hard drive just for future growth in the proxies. But you can move that at a later date as well. So it's not an irrevocable decision. The key thing is that the cost should be manageable. And it doesn't even have to be that fast. We stream the proxies off of that drive, but it turns out it's perfectly adequate for it to be hard drive based rather than SSD. So you know, maybe err on the side of a bigger hard drive with more room to grow, and just back it up regularly. Here's another question from a lot of questions coming in. How much maintenance is needed to keep the Mac and GPU processor operational? What about compatibility with corporate security and firewalls? Very good question. So in terms of maintenance, we offer typically twice a year major upgrades and then various patches in between. Um, Both the Mac Mini and the Linux box are obviously on current spec OSs and are upgradable. So that's a good thing. And in terms of corporate security and firewalls, a lot of the corporate IT departments will look at this setup and say, not in my network, you don't. So, it is important. There's like a cultural gap between the small teams that are just out on a shoot capturing media. And then if you want to deploy this for a big corporate site, or we have big government customers like the Social Security Administration, like the state of New York, when they deploy, it needs to be the proper Dell or Supermicro servers, everything kind of locked down. And again, that adds to the cost. So for them, a little $3,000 gamer setup may not cut it. And so in those cases, we generally you know, do as they ask, of course, and configure it on a couple of large scale servers. The cool thing from an IT perspective is that this is all behind the firewall. There is no cloud component to this. This is not, an open port or anything like that. We do support, of course, VPNs and also reverse proxy. So there are a couple of ways to get into the system, but those maintain a high security profile, and IT departments are generally comfortable with that. But this is not designed as a public facing, public internet solution. We have a different product for that, Axle AI Cloud, which is actually probably a good subject for a whole nother webinar. And that is essentially taking a lot of the same technology you've seen, but put it in a public cloud context with the security and scalability that comes with that. But in general, when we talk to IT departments, they are very happy, though often they're not so happy with the Mac aspect of it. So we just go Linux for both servers in that case. Oh, Patrice, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, it is. It is so small. You're sneaking on the desk.
Yeah. The word sneak does not usually go in well with IT departments. So yeah, they'll hunt you
Anyway,
down.
now
Let's
other
see.
couple good question.
Yeah, some more good questions coming up. Tim Gross asks, can I use the PC with a nice NVIDIA card? That's essentially what the HP is.
Yeah,
It's an Intel PC with a 4060 NVIDIA card. You are welcome to use your own. A lot of people will have like editing workstations that aren't the absolute up to the minute box, but are still very capable. Those are fine. Um, and then does Axle Cloud also provide the vector search? Not yet. We are in the course of adding that. In fact, we just had a developer call this morning. Uh, we're probably a month or two away from implementing that there. We do have the object, the face, the logos, the speech transcription. But adding the vector search there, one important ingredient is that the vector database needs to be multi-tenant, because if you're in a cloud hosted system, you don't want to be doing a vector search and accidentally pop up the results from somebody else's stuff, or
yeah.
even search parameters from someone else's stuff. So it really has to be firewalled a little bit between the users. And so the vector database that we're using does support that, but we are probably looking at early 2025 to have that in our cloud product. And again, it's mostly about these security and multi-tenant issues.
We have also a question about whether or not the Premier panel works over VPN or cloud. So technically speaking, yes, you can connect via VPN to your actual system. Uh, then it depends a lot on your VPN hardware and what it can do in terms of passing media. Editing 4, 6, 8K over VPN will most likely not work. So which probably will come to the remote proxy editing follow-up question to that. And I did not showcase a lot about what we do. At the very beginning, I showed you the media. We pick it up automatically. We keep combing the drive. And when it is ready, we create proxies. We create by default 1080p 3 megabits per second proxies that can be changed to more or less depending on what you want. We also have the possibility to create mezzanine proxies that can be used in editing, and that will be 5 megabit per second 1080p's with audio pass-through. And typically, you can download and relink after that if you were to do anything like that with the proxy editing. There is a lot to do. And is there Avid Media Composer and Pro Tool integration? So that will probably come with the companion app, but we do have also AAF work export from the bins. Not familiar enough with Pro Tools to tell you how it will work with Pro Tools, but for Media Composer, it will bring in the sequence. Uh, Adobe After
And
Effects, we have a panel for Adobe After Effects.
the drag and drop panel, though, is fairly broad in its
Yeah,
support. So, with it, you can essentially drag it to any native desktop application. It won't bring over all the metadata because that's highly specific to the applications, but it'll let you bring in the clips and you can search for the metadata inside the drag and drop app. So it's not as good as what we have in Premiere, but it's certainly usable, and we have quite a few customers already doing those workflows with things like Final Cut 10, DaVinci Resolve, etc. We are actually 1 minute over time, so thank you everybody for joining us. This has been super.
mhm.
Lots of great questions, which we
Yeah.
appreciate. Oh, one last question.
There,
API access, absolutely everything is REST API based. We can get you the APIs to not only the overall system, but also the components. And delighted to work with people on projects like that. So anyway, thank you all. Great turnout, great enthusiasm. And if you know folks on the West Coast or Asia that might want to learn more, we have additional calls coming up in 4 hours and then again 7 hours after that. So 2 p.m. East Coast time and 9 p.m. East Coast time. Thanks again. And thanks, Patrice. Thanks,
sure thing.
everyone.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the questions there. And we are reachable, Sam at
Oh, yes.
axle.ai, Patrice at axle.ai. So we are still small enough that it's a first name basis for our emails. So feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.